two vouchers. These are two vouchers that will give you admission to Leicestershire County Cricket Club ground to go and watch a match, which is Leicestershire versus Sussex. Of course, you go there, take your samosas and take your thermos and go relax and watch a cricket match and engage with the wider community. There'll be many people there that you're going to meet there. So that's 2 tickets for the Leicestershire County Cricket Club. So if you call, you get those tickets. How I'm going to get those tickets to you is another story. I don't know. So how have you all been? Now Ramadan is almost coming to an end, and we must all understand everything that we've done throughout the month, that we must carry on the good spirits, the good work, and do not forget that we don't just go back to how it was. We have to keep positive and do good for the next 11 months and another 12 months after that. So don't forget that. Now, last 2 days or 3 days left. Of course, we must not stop giving. That goes without saying, you know. And I will be talking about this tomorrow and the day after to show you how many good charities that have been operating here, doing their pledge days, and the sums of monies that they have collected and where they are looking to distribute these monies. And that is absolutely commendable. They've worked extremely hard and they've connected with their respective databases, and they have raised a lot of funds here which will go to good use for the sake of humanity. So what do we say here on Ramadan Radio? We educate, we inspire, we serve, and we unite. And humanity is solidarity, and then after that comes the unity. So we must understand all of that. Knowledge is your power. You gain your education, and then from that will come lots of wisdom, and you will go on to educate others, inspire them, you will serve the community, and you will create everyone to be united in the community. So who is going to tell me now how many diversities there are in Leicester? So that deserves also a gift. Have we got any gifts? I'm asking our producers, do we have a voucher to give to somebody if they get the answer right? And also the Leicester population, without going and seeking help from Uncle Google. Don't do that. Just see if you know your community. How many residents reside in Leicester City? City, not county. We're focused on the city. So today, I have a wonderful guest to join us. I have Sister Khuteja Amar Sharif, who has taken time out to come and talk to us about the good work that she and her team are doing at the Shamma Women's Center. So put your right hand up if you even know where is the Shamma Women's Center, right? Now, this is one of the problems I'm having, is that many of you in the community are detached from knowing who's who, where the places are that are doing good work. Now, on your location, you must know every organization, every charity who are doing great work in the community. It is awareness that we are all short of. Assalamu alaikum, my sister. How are you this morning?
Assalam. Alhamdulillah. Yes, fine. I really want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and talk more about Shamma Women's Centre. And I do hope people out there do know about us. We've been around for 37 years. In fact, we had our 36-year celebration earlier this year. It was a bit delayed because of the lockdown. But we've been established really as a result of women back 37 years ago, who had, particularly from Southeast Asian communities, who lacked confidence, didn't have any language skills, had nowhere to go. So it started off very much as a social group of ladies, and it kind of evolved from that. We set up as a legal entity, as a charity, and it was really to support the most vulnerable women, particularly from those communities, to help empower them educationally, socially and economically, and more recently in terms of well-being and mental health. So that encompasses so many services, so many areas of work that we've developed over the years to ensure that our communities, our women, are, equipped with the skills, the knowledge to make a better life for themselves, for their families, and for the wider community.
Of course, I want everyone to understand, where is this Shamma Women's Centre first? Now, is it in Leicester East, West, South, or Leicester North?
It's in the Stonygate ward, so it's it's in Sparkenhoe Street, which is opposite the health centre, very near the train
So
station.
does the Stonygate ward, does it come...
Spinney Hills and Stonygate, yeah.
So does that come in as Leicester East?
Yes.
Or Leicester South?
I think it's Leicester East. I've not asked that question before.
Our producer will work that out, and she'll tell us now whether it's East or South.
Yeah.
So we're trying to keep it very simple for everybody so that they are able to identify, and we're trying to let everybody know, try to work out where is East, West, South, right?
Okay.
And then they can try to work out what are the population demographics. Now, as soon as you have told me where you are, is it on the St. Peter's Road?
Yes, yeah.
So if I start walking from Evington Road, I can be there in less than 10 minutes.
I would think so. It depends how fast you walk. Yes.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes approximately, right? So it is, let me give you another clue where it is. The Conduit Street Mosque.
Yes, right opposite that.
It's before that.
Yeah.
So if you're going along, it is almost opposite a church called the St. Peter's Church.
Yes.
Now, how do I remember that?
How do you remember that?
Because when we came to England in 1972, we went there in the first week to do screening, right?
Wow, yes.
As refugees, they took us there to that church, and each individual, your ear was getting looked at, your nose was getting looked at, and you were getting these, what we called back in the day, body screening, to see if you have got any fleas, if you've got any nits in your head, and that was what they were doing. It was, looking back at it, it was quite humiliating.
It was, yeah,
if I can recall back there, but when you're 10, 11 years old, you don't quite understand what's happening to you, right? But now you look back and you say, well, that was really a humiliating experience. So that's how I know that area, because I never forgot that church.
Yeah.
So certain things in your life, they leave a mark on you, don't they?
Obviously, that would, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a memory cell that is never going to be erased in your body. And that's how I remember that place. Now, you drive past there, it's to the left side, depending on which side you're coming from. And many people, they wonder what's going on in there. They read the name out there, and immediately it reflects to a common name in the South Asian community. Many girls are called the name Shamma, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah.
And in fact, my elder brother's wife, she has the same name.
Very well.
So the name always resonates.
Yes, it does.
And now today we're going to find out exactly what goes on inside the doors. So all of you listening, I hope that you've also got an experience driving by there like I have had, that what's happening down there at the Women's Centre, like that. So that's what we're doing. And Khuteja, Sister Khuteja, so let's start. We got a long list, haven't we?
We have, yes. We do an awful lot of work.
Yeah.
But what I'm really excited about, I'll start with what we're doing at the moment. That's really relevant. We're working with the Leicester City Council to actually promote the COVID-19 vaccination. It's a vaccine confidence programme. And it's really targeting women carers from Black, Asian, minority ethnic communities in Stonygate, Spinney Hills, to encourage them. There's still a whole pocket of our community that have not taken up the vaccine, and to really find out why they aren't, and to help overcome those barriers. It may be fear of the needle. It may be the fact that they think, leave it up to God and, everything will be okay. But, I mean, it's so important that, everyone is vaccinated because of we've all seen the consequences. And to be honest, there are still pockets and pockets of groups of people from our communities that are still not taking up the vaccine. And it's important. We will be doing a lot of work through the council, recruiting volunteers, ambassadors to go out there, doing videos to encourage, different languages, Hindi, Gujarati, Punjabi, Urdu, to get the message across that it's so important that you get, you're vaccinated. It's a responsibility for yourself, for your children, for your families, and for the community. So, please think twice when you kind of shake your head and say, no, I'll be okay. No, you may not be okay, and the consequences are really dire. So we'll be doing a lot of interesting work on that to try and encourage communities to take up the vaccine, those who've not engaged, who just kind of closed their ears to it and thinking we'll be okay, and to help them understand how important it is. So that's one of the things we'll be doing. We'll also be doing things like... one of the other things we do is kind of, lots of the women that come to our centre are very vulnerable. They have poor language skills, very poor employability skills. Some of them probably never been to school, or been to school and left and got married and never had the opportunity to work. So we actually give them the skills, we empower them, we give them the skills to be independent, to set up their own businesses. We have a weekly job club, and to give them, with many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women who've set up their own businesses, so they can be can contribute to the community. And we've run classes to support that, like cake making, cake decorating, cooking, arts and crafts, sewing. We have an overlocking, lock stitching industrial centre, the only women's industrial centre in Leicester, for 27 years now, and we provide women the skills to actually become machinists and gain jobs, but with ethical employers that are going to give them the minimum wage or living wage, so they can,
So you are going extremely fast, because I'm trying to picture all of the things that you have mentioned right now, and it almost sounds like you are a manufacturing factory of community development.
Yeah, yes.
It's a huge list of all things. Now, brothers and sisters, when you drive past there, did you ever imagine what goes on inside there? And Sister Khadija has just gone through a very brief list, and there's still more to come as to what goes on at the Shamma Women's Centre. So COVID support is what they are pushing right now. And right now, many of you are not partaking or getting involved with the vaccine, because you have a belief that it's not for you, you don't believe in it. So many people. And a shocking stat, which Brother Zafar yesterday had pointed out to me, that when he went out to do this work in that area, they were absolutely astonished that 50% of people were not vaccinated, right? And then we went on to talk about the census, and the same situation arose there, that many people are not on the system. So who are the people who are not on the system? Is they have no GP, they're not registered with the GP, or they're not on the system, on the radar, on the electoral poll. So it's so difficult, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's very much kind of word of mouth and trust, and I think that's a really important thing. And I mean, Shamma's been around for 37 years now, and we are trusted, and we are confidential, and we do support. And I think that's making individuals understand how important it is, and not feel, that they're kind of being pointed out in any way, or there might be some other issue, something like underlying issue, the reason for kind of taking up the vaccine. So it's about reassuring and gaining that trust of our community, and continuing to gain that, so they do take the positive action in terms of vaccine.
So here's one stat. Somebody's just sent a message in about the population. They're saying that there is 394 people in Leicester. Why couldn't they just round that off to 357 and 400? 394 is pretty accurate figure, isn't it?
It is.
Now, we don't know if that is a Google stat, right? Our producer, are you listening? I'm keeping an eye on her as well. So we're multitasking here in the studio. So what is the exact figure on Google? And that'll be interesting, because when I ask this question to many people, I never have received the same answer. So 357 is a stat that was prevalent, but with the new census coming out, that is going to be absolutely out of the window.
Yes.
So with the new census, which is imminently due, we are going to say that we are between 400 to 500,000. We had a figure the other day at 556,000 in Leicester. Now, and that is across 70 diversities. So the brother has got that bit right. And he's also going on. this is a clever one, this brother or sister. What they're saying is that is across 14 faiths. 14 faiths, right, in the city of Leicester. And finally, is now being very assertive. He's saying, when can I come and get the voucher? Right? Now, what do we do, sister? You decide. I'm putting you in the hot seat here.
I think he deserves a voucher. I think he probably deserves 2 vouchers. That's a lot, very comprehensive information. He's gone to a lot of trouble to get that. So, yes, you could pop into the here into the studios and pick them up.
Well, brother, decision has been made. We had a meeting. We did mashwara together, and you deserve 2 vouchers, which you will take your friend or your partner and go and watch a match at Leicestershire County Cricket Club. That is your opportunity to engage with our sporting institution in Leicester, isn't it? Which we don't do enough. That's the complaint that I had, was that, oh, we are not getting any engagement, Zed. What are you going to do about it? I said, yeah, throw it on me. What am I going to do about it? You know, nothing we can do alone, sister.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the things we try and encourage. Is we have an on-site gym and sauna at Shamma, and we've run fitness programs to encourage women to keep fit and healthy, and because that's very important for your mental health, for yourself. Things like healthy cooking as well. You know, not using the ghee, using the healthy alternatives.
They have a kitchen there?
Yeah, we do. We do run cooking classes, healthy cooking classes. We have lots of fantastic stuff. It's amazing. You'll have to come, Zed, and we'll show you the kind of things.
I've got an expert. 2 of the Leicester's top food bloggers. They're here on our team.
Oh, well, there you are.
And what I'm going to tell you now what they're going to say. They're going to say, look, I'm happy to come down there to taste these cuisines. What you are saying, healthy cooking, but one of them is not into healthy cooking. He just likes his grills. Grills. Now, a certain part in southern Africa, they are born and bred eating grills, fresh all the time. You know, you could slaughter an animal in the morning, and in the afternoon they're eating a barbecue. And you know what they call their barbecues? They call it a braai. They don't call the word barbecue. It's too long. They cut it down to braai. I think it's a Portuguese word. I'm not sure. But as soon as you touch any topic of food, you start getting lots of messages in. I don't know what it is about food. Activates the human brain, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. And I think one thing we're renowned for at Shamma is our hospitality. And we have kind of guests from all different nationalities. And one thing they always say, how hospitable we are. And if we have a cooking day that day, we always try and let them sample whatever's been cooked that day, whether it's cake or whether it's a biryani dish or whatever. We do that. So yes.
Well, here we have a lot of issue with biryani.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, we always constantly have arguments that which is the greatest rice dish? Is it a biryani or is it an akhni? Are you familiar with akhni?
I'm not akhni, biryani, but pilau is my kind of my heritage. We were brought up on pilau rice.
So pilau rice, biryani, and akhni. All of you listening in right now, you can do a little vote on it. Which is your favorite out of the 3 dishes, right? Biryani, akhni, or pilau rice. Of course, we will see who's the winner. Each year we have a fight on this matter. So it's very regional. Right, people from certain parts of Pakistan, for example, they swear by their 30 different varieties of biryani. And you go across the world, there are different rice dishes made in a different way, from China to India to Pakistani and to Iran also, and then the Middle East. So everybody is got their own. And that is what's called culture capital, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Rice is rice, but the different ways. So even rice has a culture capital issue. So like that, here in the community, all of us have to understand culture capital, values, our ethos, and how we work together, we live together. So the list that you have given me is extensive. It is very extensive, and I'm trying to understand how you cope with all of that.
Cope with it because we know there's a need. We all our services are based on the needs of our community. One of my roles is writing funding applications. I don't sit in my office on my own. I'm a very good bid writer, but I wouldn't be able to do it without understanding and knowing what the barriers are, what the issues are, and finding a solution of how we address them. And that's why we're successful in terms of engaging with women. So it's talking to them, finding out what their needs are, using different ways of getting feedback, not your traditional surveys, speaking to them, having groups together, just getting feedback from staff, from volunteers. We have we have over 33 volunteers at any time that help support, and without them we wouldn't be able to run, because we're a charity. So we get information from them in terms of what their clients have said, because a lot of them do kind of befriending work, supporting, emotional and practical support for those who've had kind of mental health issues or just lonely, particularly through the lockdown, because we continue to work throughout the lockdown. For me, it was really important that we as a community, as an organisation, served the community, at a time it needed us most. We didn't close our doors, we kept them open. And we were awarded Leicestershire Charity of the Year, Niche Business Awards, in 2021, and part of that was for the work we did. So it's all about making sure that whatever we have, there's a need for it, and changing the offer if we have to, if it's not quite working. And being a very small organisation, we can do that quite easily. The communication links are there. And one of the programs we've developed, obviously we found a lot of women were suffering from domestic abuse. We offer domestic abuse counselling support, but we've developed a program called the Freedom Program, which is a 12-week program which helps women identify abusive relationships, how to deal with them, and be more confident. And we offer training, we offer helping to work, we have an on-site nursery because many of them have children. So we provide that. So we wrap our services around the needs of that individual. And everyone is unique. There may be common themes, but everyone is unique. Welfare rights is another very big one. A lot of the people that come to our centre have issues with welfare rights, and we support them with that. But mental health is another one. Since 2014, we've been running our Bereavement to Achievement programme, and that's the only programme of its kind. It's we have bereavement counselling support workers who speak in different languages. They use approach that is culturally conducive to our clients. It's not that your normal kind of standard service you get. So that's kind of developed, and we offer services to anxiety, depression, and for men, suicide waves. Unfortunately, sadly, suicide has increased within the Southeast Asian community, particularly women, and that is something we feel very strongly in terms of helping to address those kind of thoughts, suicide ideation. So that's another area we work with. So it's really just evolving around the needs of every individual that walks through our centre or contacts us through our website in whatever way. So there's lots of programs, fun programs, and it's also making friends. And one of the programs we did a couple of years ago was creative communities, and that was working with women from different faiths, and kind of pairing up with them and then doing activities together. And it was amazing. We had befrienders from Muslim with Jewish, Hindu with Christian, and what everyone felt was that it was all about, there was so much more in common than there was in differences, and I think that's key. We all human
we
beings.
call that here shared values.
Yes,
shared values
yes.
of humanity.
Yeah.
Now, somebody sent me a message that one of the ideas about bid writing, everybody is weak on that. They don't know how to apply for funding or what funding is available downstream, and this is a good one for you. They're saying that the next bid that you secure, you can invite the 10 good community groups in the city, and they can come along, meet Shamma's Women's Centre, and they can all have a bit of that lovely dish that you were talking about earlier on.
They're welcome, yes, they're welcome.
And engage with each other.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's so important that there's a lot of community groups that other community groups are not aware of what they're doing. And they have so much to learn from each other. haven't they?
That's right, absolutely. I mean, we just recently, we're part of a consortium. It's called Positive Communities. It's led by Bangladeshi Youth and Cultural Shamsi. And we provide, and it's 12 organisations that probably kind of knew of each other or didn't know of each other, but we've working together to help address the issues that came out of COVID-19. And there's a whole range of some organisations that provide support to young people, some that provide support to older people.
So, Positive Communities, who is it led by?
Bangladeshi Youth and Cultural Shamsi.
Are they in Leicester?
They are, yes.
So you'll be connecting me with them?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Because we've worked very hard to find out how many Bangladesh community live in Leicester. Do you know the figure?
I have no idea.
Would you like to know?
Yes.
For free?
Yes, okay.
Live on radio, Ramadan.
Yeah.
It is 12,242. Yes, make a note. This is a working interview. This is today. We're working and we are learning from each other, right? Empowering each other. So you will connect me with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why I'm asking for that is, brothers and sisters, we are also working on a project, and we don't want to duplicate projects. If there's one around in the city already, we should work together, right? Every day I'm learning about new projects. There's a project called Connecting Communities. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, Connecting Communities, they're doing something similar. And there's another project that is led by one of our sisters who works with us here on the radio. She's doing an excellent job. She has a lot of experience in the community, having worked for other organizations in the city. And I'll share with you her name. At the moment, she's a little bit shy. I don't want to say her name live on radio without her permission. I might get sued for that, you know that.
Oh, right, okay, we don't want that happening.
Yeah. So there you are. Now, the Positive Communities, straight after the program, I'll connect with them and see what they're doing. Now, the program we have got here is called Diversity in Humanity. And that program is about connecting 12 different wonderful community organizations, groups, are people who are doing fundraising, they're doing a lot of charity work, and they collect all that money and they either put it back into the community or they are sending it abroad for poverty alleviation. And that's what they're doing. Now, the idea is that all of these to connect with each other. Now, this is the secret here, is that they're all from different communities. So, are you familiar with a project called Team Hub?
No, I'm not actually.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. That Team Hub, nobody knows where they are in Leicester. So I took the liberty to go find this place, and it was based in New Parks. Yes? And when you go see the work that they're doing, you draw from it. You're saying, well, shared values. We're doing exactly what they're doing, but maybe they're doing some good work here for elderly people, people who are jobless, children, small nursery, a sports facility. The list is endless. Now that is what shared values is all about, and this project is across the other side of the city. Well, it's in the city, New Parks, and there are projects in New Parks, there are projects in Saffron Lane, there are projects in Thurmby Lodge, Netherhall, areas that have created an us and them scenario, right?
Yes.
Because we're not connecting. So the young lady who set up Connecting Communities wants to do something about that. And Diversity in Humanity wants to address that issue so that we can break down these barriers.
Absolutely.
To bring all the communities together, to work as a team. And what is the next bit that is important? What you said earlier on? Bid.
Yeah, yes, funding, yes.
Bid, funding equals the 4 M's. You familiar with the 4 M's? Make a note, write it down.
Yes.
4 M's is money, money, and more money.
Oh, right, okay.
Without that, there's no sustainability. We can't.
Yeah, we understand that, yes.
We can't deliver these much needed activities in our community without having the necessary funds to achieve that.
Absolutely. And that's what we found. You know, you get a little pot of funding, it's short-lived, and then you have to kind of restart again. And it's not sustainable. And
Even the funding is not sustainable
fundament
because
isn't, yes.
today that funding is not ring fenced, allocated for 10 years to give you a 10-year breathing space. Nobody does that. If you get a fund now, next year you won't get it. And you're back on that hamster wheel looking for money all the time, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So the idea is here to connect many, many businesses with each organization so that they also are building partnerships. So you see the value of partnerships? Right.
Absolutely. And you mentioned businesses. We made a conscious effort to try and connect with businesses, and we were supported by a number of businesses who are a member of the East Midlands Chamber of Commerce, and we were supported by a number of businesses who helped do our windows for us. If, I don't know whether you ever drove past. We had like grills in the front of our building, and we had Atoll Unique Windows. They actually, free of charge, did all our windows for us. Fantastic, beautiful, and it's made such a difference to our service users, to our staff who work there, because it looked like we were kind of caged in. It was really not very nice. So it was really, lovely to get that. We've had other companies.
Well, that's what we're getting at. If you could get 10, 15, 20 businesses who are now your ambassadors, your partners, and you will be surprised that if you invite them for one of your good meals that you've cooked, they will even work harder for you. You got to try that.
Yeah, we had a celebration event earlier this year, and that in March, and that was very well attended to celebrate our 35 years, but it was actually 36 years because the lockdown we had to postpone it, and that was very well attended. So we've made some links with that.
So links, partnerships are absolutely crucial in the world of community development, right? And we are absolutely committed to that. Throughout these 30 days, every day we are meeting a guest who we are sharing live on Radio Ramadan the ideas that we have. And we don't just come out of this flash in the pan. We have consultations. We talk to each other. We talk to other people in the community. And they all have the same problem.
Yes.
Funding, partnerships. And the city mayor, you know what his mantra is? Partnerships. Not only at the top end, but across top of the ladder to the bottom of the ladder. These partnerships are absolutely necessary. So in order to develop these partnerships, we need to become aware. That's why every day we talk about our stats, our data. What is our population? What is our demographic? Who are these 70 diversities? And this is what we are working on. So anybody who wants a bit of homework, do me the A to Z of all the diversities in Leicester. A, how many people come from which country that start with A, right across the way. And we can do some good marketing with that. It's awareness. So everybody's aware how many diversities we have in the city. So who wants to take that on as a homework? It's not difficult. It'll take you maybe an hour. And if you can do that, we're going to have to give them a prize again.
Yes, it looks like that.
Yeah?
Definitely.
And then we share all of that information, make a nice wall chart. Somebody's going to have to sponsor that as well. One of the printers in Leicester can do us 100 wall charts that we can distribute to all these organizations. Diversity in action, and diversity is humanity. Is it all coming together?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So you can see now we are working hard here, aren't we? Lots of energy.
Absolutely.
Positive energy.
Yeah.
So now we were talking about the COVID earlier on.
Yes.
And tell me about your program for the befriending the corona, because we missed that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Corona comrades, you call it.
Yes, this was something that was set up as a result of the COVID lockdown. And can you imagine, our centre was, most of our activities were face-to-face, 97% before the lockdown. That suddenly all stopped. We knew there were people out there, women out there that needed help during the lockdown. So we recruited and trained, set about, and we had to realign all our services virtually. So you can imagine all the technical issues, but we set up staff and volunteers from home, and we set up this team, recruited and trained a team of volunteers from all walks of life who've had lived experience in some cases of mental health or isolation, who'd been to the centre, and we'd supported them, but they wanted to help. And this team, and it's actually provided practical and emotional support to women and people out there. And our counsellors also provided that. And I'll never forget the very first call we had when we had this in the lockdown. It was from a 72-year-old lady, which is a white lady. She just had a phone call from the hospital that her brother had passed away. Now, there were only two of them, and they'd been very close up till 2 years prior to that, and they'd had a fallout or something and not spoken. So you can imagine what anguish she was going through, and the guilt that they'd not spoken for 2 years, and all of a sudden she's been asked to arrange a funeral for him. So just put yourself in that poor lady's shoes. And we were able to provide her with emotional and practical support to help her through that journey. And that's just one case of many, many, many other women we've helped. There was issues with digital poverty. There's homeschooling. Many of the mums felt really inadequate that they were failing their children because they didn't have a laptop. The children were missing out. They didn't have the digital skills. So our Corona Comrades team, led by Beena Solanki, our volunteer coordinator, she identified certain organisations out there, that businesses that were willing to donate laptops, also mobile phones, so that their children, and also printing, photocopying work, because they missed out on not having that facility. So we were able to help those families and those children stay on top, who are often disadvantaged anyway. So that was one of the things, one of the examples. Also, other things have been providing signposting to other agencies as well, where they could go to food banks, etc. So lots and lots of different kinds of work, depending on what the need was. So we've continued with that, and we're still, in contact with people. We've got dedicated Corona Comrades who provide that phone support. But then the befriending side is face to face. And it's like one lady, for example, was very isolated and came out of the lockdown, lacked confidence, and she just wanted to go out. I think she'd lost her husband during COVID. Go out and just go for a walk. So she needed someone to accompany her, to take those first few steps. So it's providing that companionship, providing that support. One of the other things we're finding is a lot of the women kind of lack confidence in actually meeting other people. So we gradually bring them into the centre. We give them home visits and we bring them into the centre, and then they meet and make friends. They do the cooking, they do the baking, they do the hair and beauty, and it's part of their journey to their well-being as well, ensuring they're back to some kind of normality. We also found a lot of people coming out of COVID who were employees who were going back to work, and they were very, very nervous and anxious about it. They didn't know what their legal rights were, what they could ask their employer, what they couldn't. So we developed a program to support them so they could, what their rights were, what to expect. Because there was a lot of confusion during lockdown, but we wanted to make sure that the communities out there didn't feel they were isolated. The women didn't feel they were isolated. There was nobody there, that the doors had closed on them. We were there in a different way, and we've continued to be there. And we continue to provide those services.
There is a huge demand, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And when you see the ladder of our community, those at the lower end of the earning potential, they are the ones that absolutely need a lot of help, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
And sometimes they lack the confidence and they are in fear. They're insecure. They don't even feel like coming forward because of their insecurities to seek help, don't they?
That's it. But I think a lot of it are some referrals, word of mouth. And one of the things we found, a lot of the ladies that were working didn't understand their rights, and we've developed a program called the Workers' Rights and Exploitation Level 1 program, which I'm really excited about, and that gives them a qualification, but also it helps them understand what their rights are in employment, what exploitation is. And I remember hearing stories, that one woman who came to one of our textiles overlocking, she'd left and she came back to say that her employer told her that she couldn't have time off for antenatal appointments, and if she did, she'd lose her job. And, that's awful.
That is absolutely
Yeah.
untrue.
Yes, it is.
So, brothers and sisters, you are listening now live on Radio Ramadan Radio 87.7 FM, and you can hear the atrocities that are being committed in our community with wrongful information that are purely exploitation, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the textiles,
yeah.
and for the last 2 years, we've had a lot of bad press on textiles, haven't we?
We have, but we are working positively in that. We're using it in a positive way in terms of educating women and working with ethical employers. We're doing a lot of work in terms of that, and it's about education. Unless you know what your rights are, unless you know what you can say or can't say and how to do it, and that you've got the support there to an advocate to support you through that process, you're not going to do it. So that's what we're about. We're about, enabling those women, giving them the confidence, the knowledge and support to turn that around. And we will only deal with ethical employers. We do a whole risk assessment before we, have any contact with any, real meaningful contact with any employer out there.
Yeah, this is very sad. Absolutely sad. I'm not really happy into hearing this, is that many people who are insecure, they become vulnerable, and then other people are exploiting them. And this is not at all good for the community. And if you know anybody like that, please signpost, make contact with the Shamma Women's Centre, and they will also try to get involved and help on this. And is it okay to give your number to them?
Yeah, this is 016 251 4747, or just pop into the centre on 39 to 45 Sparkenhoe Street, or you can contact us by email on info@shammawomencentre.co.uk, and also we have a website. But we're running this programme and we're really excited about it. It's a 5-week course. It's on a Tuesday, 10 till 12. And it'll give you a qualification, but you need to have a certain amount of understanding of English and written English. But we are looking to develop something that's not a qualification, that kind of probably addresses those women that need the help more. So we're working on that as well, because they need to know, or this exploitation will continue for generations, and we have to stop it.
So textiles is an area that you're focusing on.
It's everything. We have women that go into kind of caring jobs, cleaning jobs, packing. So this, textiles we're very familiar with, because we have an on-site textile training centre, overlocking and lock stitching, and we're very well known for that. So we see a lot of women in them. Unfortunately, a lot of women have been exploited in that area. But again, there are women that are exploited in other careers as well, other jobs as well, sectors. So we work with anybody, and this programme is open for anybody who wants to know more about their rights. Gain a certificate from it as well, which is which would be fantastic. So yeah, anybody out there who wants to go on this, we're enrolling now. So, and it is in quite high demand, but it's really important that women out there understand their rights.
I think there is another group that we met here on the radio, just around the corner to you, the HAC Centre.
Yes.
They're doing some good work.
They're doing some work as well.
Do you do some networking with them?
We've worked with the Highfield Centre for a long while. We're part of Highfield, so we're aware of them, and we have worked and collaborated. Yes.
That's right. I think it's very good to collaborate, because they started a program there for the exploitation of textile workers, and there's a brother there, Tariq Islam,
yes,
who's taking care of that, and it's good to network. And
yes,
this is what we have said to everybody, that work together, work as a team.
You have to,
and we can reach some good objectives. And it's absolutely wrong, isn't it, that we people are exploiting others.
Absolutely.
Just because they're secure, maybe they can't speak English very well, and they're insecure, aren't they? So just lack of language skills will create insecurity in a person. And then as soon as they become insecure, they're to be exploited.
That's right. And that's why we offer the ESOL classes at Shamma. We teach them how to read and write. And that's the first barrier. Unless you understand, like you said, it's very difficult to be able to stand up and demonstrate what your issues are. So that's the first thing we do. And then it's confidence building. Then it's programs like this Workers' Right to Labour Exploitation Programme, which gives them more detailed information on what's possible and what's not possible, and what's legal and what's not legal. And there's some horrendous stories out there. But I think a lot of the issues, particularly in textiles, it's very family-orientated businesses. So there's a lot of kind of, not speaking out because, you're letting the family down. So that kind of circle has to be broken as well.
That is so prevalent in that area now. Is it like exploitation is happening in a certain area?
I wouldn't have that information. I think it's, there is exploitation, but it's to what extent. I'd need hard facts for that, and I don't have those hard facts. But we know it's happening.
Yeah, that's true. So we need to really have those stats, isn't it, across the city, where do we pinpoint where the problems are coming from, and so on. So that is so many programs. I've lost count the number of programs that you are dealing with.
We do. We have, like I said, we have a whole variety because the need is there, and it's about making friends. It's about gaining confidence. It's about building networks and addressing the issues that are out there. I mean, health education is a really important thing as well. We've done programs on kind of cancer awareness, cervical, cancer, and we've worked with University Hospitals Leicester, the CCG, various organisations to ensure that those messages get across, and we hold various events where we invite them in. So, and the uptake's been amazing. It's been amazing from our ladies because they want that opportunity, they want to learn, and that kind of dispels a lot of the kind of myths out there that, these communities don't want to engage, they're hard to reach. No, they're not hard to reach. They just need that opportunity. And they're so willing. It's amazing. We had, and I'll never forget, we had a consultation for the configuration of the maternity services here in Leicester. And we had a team of people come from the University Hospitals Leicester. And we thought, well, we won't get many people, but we had so many ladies there. But what really struck me, there was young people, and this is 80-year-old there, and they were very, very, they're very kind of engaged. And I said to her, why have you come? Well, I want to make sure things are okay for my daughter-in-law, that when she has a baby, everything's safe for her. And that's amazing. It's that kind of giving them the opportunity to, share and shape future services for Leicester City is, it's really fundamental, I think, in terms of making the right and, the cultural right to meet our needs of our communities.
Now, we talked earlier on about insecurities, and yesterday we had Imran Mohammed from the County Council, and we had Mark from the City Council who are working on PH Public Health. And that insecurity can also lead to their mental health.
Oh, absolutely. They're linked, very, very linked, because it's about confidence. It's about feeling that you're not capable. It's about feeling that, you're feeling isolated. And like I said, we've run this programme, Bereavement to Achievement Plus, since 2014. And that provides a whole holistic approach to mental health. And the interesting thing, it's a stigma and a taboo in our communities, mental health. You're either mental or you're okay. There's nothing in between, but there's a lot of grey areas. 1 in 4 people suffer mental health, and
1 in 4.
Yeah, nationally.
That is a very high stat, isn't it?
It's probably even higher now. We've seen 34% increase, if not more, since lockdown, and also domestic abuse. There's been an increase of about 30% in that as well. And that impacts on mental health too. So imagine being locked up with a perpetrator through lockdown. It's had devastating effects on families. But we address all those issues, through counselling, through befriending, through reskilling people, giving the language skills, giving them the confidence, referring them to agencies. For example, through COVID, there was a hardship grant the City Council set up, and we were able to support 77 families to have sufficient money who were hit hard by COVID to access basic things like uniforms for the children, food, pay the utility bills. And, and there were many more families out there, but we didn't have the staff to support that particular programme.
Now, that is a big problem at the moment. The food banks are busy. The utilities are affecting people on there.
Absolutely.
So where people had a electric bill at £100 a month, that's shot up to £200 a month. Where are they supposed to go and get the other £100?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that. We're seeing an increase in people wanting welfare advice. And we do the best we can. At the moment I've got someone in post, but again, I'll be looking to apply for funds to continue that post. But the demand is huge. And sadly, I'm sorry to say this, but we found, and there are organisations out there that are charging people something like £300 to fill in a PIP application. These are vulnerable people, and they're doing it, exploiting them. £300 odd to fill in a PIP application, and we will do it free. We will do what we can, and this is exploiting people who already haven't got much money. They haven't got the English skills, but there are sadly people out there, sharks out there, who are making money out of these vulnerable people, and that's why I think it's really important for services like ours. We offer it free of charge. It's helping humanity. It's helping those, everything that we believe in, helping humanity at a time when they're struggling in difficult times. We have asylum seekers, refugees. Some of them haven't got food, some of them have got homes. We do what we can, and but again, it's down to resources, getting the funding. But unfortunately, there's people out there who are exploiting them.
Well, the list of all the different areas that you are working in, I don't even want to think about the amount of funding that you require to do this.
Well, there's various projects. It just needs. We're a charity, so use of volunteers helps to deliver some of it, but it's not sustainable, because once they're developed, they move on and get jobs. We're a stepping stone to other things. So yes, we do need funding all the time, and we welcome any kind of support. If there's business out there, or if somebody wants to donate to help somebody to get a roof over their head, to get an education, to be, to avoid being exploited, to help them understand, confidence, improve their mental health. We're also offering mental health and wellbeing checks to businesses for a small cost, because a lot of employees are suffering poor mental health. So if you're a business out there and you really care about your employees, look on our website. There's a whole range of products we can offer, workshops and support, because we want to keep the economy and our workforce healthy and well.
So certainly all of us here on the radio have learned many things about Shamma Women's Centre. In the past years, we've had a brief program, but not as extensive as we have today, because what you've gone through is a huge list of what we call the opportunities you're offering, the development, the training across the board, from textiles to cooking to sports to fitness, sauna. It's a long list. It's absolutely a long list. In fact, those premises where you are at are not big enough.
Yes.
They are very small, and you need to be in a centre like the team hub, which I think you should accompany me there to take you there to see what they're doing.
Okay.
And take you across the other parts of the city where we are trying to engage. I don't want an us and them situation. We need to dispel that, and if we are staying in our own bubble, we'll never integrate.
Absolutely.
And this is what we're all about, that our integration has to step up, not one level, but maybe 5 levels.
Absolutely.
So the question to you is, we coexist, but we don't integrate enough, do we?
Absolutely. We need to do more on that. And that's always been the problem, because there's a lot of, often when I go to network meetings out externally, I'll bump into people, an organisation I've never heard about, and I think, oh my gosh, we can link up, we can do this, we can do that. Some are in the county, some are here, but we're doing similar things. It's about sharing good practice, referring clients, or just learning from each other. There's so many opportunities, but it's about knowing who's out there, Zed. I think that's really important.
So I'm going to introduce you now today. One project I've told you already about. The second one we are bringing awareness to is the Once Upon a Time 50 years ago. You familiar with that one?
No, never heard of it.
That is the Ugandan Asians when they were expelled in 1972 and they came to the city of Leicester and across England. And that is what we're bringing awareness to let people know how many people lost their lives in the 10 years preceding. Almost 480,000 people lost their lives
Shocking, shocking,
out of political strife
shocking.
and torture chambers and so many other reasons. And that was a very sad moment of history that people don't talk about that enough.
No, absolutely.
And if we don't learn from our past, we're not going to create a good today or a better tomorrow.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's another project we're bringing awareness to. So, sister, your closing remarks.
Well, all I'm saying is that women are the future for their children. They're the future teachers of their children. And if they don't understand or have the tools, what impact would that be on their family, on the community? We need people out there to invest in organisations like Shamma Women's Centre so we can continue to do the work we're doing for generations to come.
Well, I'm going to go one step further. That I'm going to say women are the future teachers throughout their journey of life for the children and the grandchildren.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that goes without saying. So, sister, today you've enlightened me. You've enlightened our listeners who have been listening to Ramadan Radio 87.7 FM. And of course, you're all free to send your WhatsApp messages, and anybody who needs more information about Shamma Women's Centre, we shall signpost them and bring them awareness on 077 488 555. And there's many leaflets the sister has left with me, and I'm going to take a week off to read them all. Right? There's a lot of things they're doing here, and it's going to take a little time to understand what's happening and what's going on. And maybe one of our bloggers here and myself will pop down there for
absolutely, you're welcome.
one of the cookery classes.
Okay.
So my producer is giving me a wave there. She's saying that your time is up, and we shall join you very shortly. Please don't go away. We're just going to have a short break, and we'll have another wonderful guest from the City Council to come and join us. And we shall share with the City Council what you are doing. In fact, I'll put him to a test, won't I?
So who's coming then today?
His name is Patrick Kittrick.
Oh, we know Patrick. He's an avid supporter of Shamma Women's Centre.
Is that right?
Yes, he is.
So I won't ask him any questions.
Yeah,
He'll
he's
know.
an avid supporter of Shamma Women's Centre. Yeah.
Very good. So, brothers and sisters, we shall join you shortly. Don't go away. We're just having a little break, and then we shall be back in action again. Thank you very much.
Time to come closer to the mic.
Yeah, come closer. Very close, like me. See? See how I am?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, put that mic there. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, we are back on Ramadan Radio 87.7 FM. You're listening to Z on the Rise and Shine show. Now, we have another wonderful guest here today who's joined us, and his good name is Patrick Kittrick. Patrick Kittrick.
That is
now,
correct.
go on, have a go. Try to spell that if you can. It's Kittrick with a K, not with a C.
I'm the man with the rhyming name. That's what they.
That's right, yeah. It took a little time to get used to that name, Kittrick, because you know what it reminded me of? One town that I used to drive past called Catterick.
Oh yes, yeah, Catterick.
Yeah, starts with a C, doesn't it?
And there's Kettering. It's a very rare name. It's from a small village in the west of Ireland, and there's not a lot of Kittericks in the world.
Not at all. I think so, yeah. Of course, that is quite a long way, but every name has a little bit of a history, doesn't it?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, a lot of you are wondering, who is Patrick Kittrick? Now, if you know, put your right hand up and let me know. Send me a WhatsApp right this minute. Who is Patrick Kittrick? What does he do? And then I'm going to give you a voucher for the Leicestershire County Cricket Club. 2 vouchers to go and visit a match. Sussex versus Leicestershire. That's a good incentive, isn't it, for somebody to call in or somebody to even write in. Of course, you know, Patrick, they have Google now, don't they?
Yes, absolutely.
So while I'm still speaking, they've got the answer.
Absolutely. You can find out there's quite a few different Google search results on mine, which shows a variety of stuff I've done.
Yeah. So Patrick, today we're going to discuss a few topics of great importance. And one of the concerns I have in our city is lack of awareness, right? People are not understanding our diversities, how many diversities we have in the city. What is the population of the city, Patrick? Go on, hit us with it. What is the correct figure?
The population of Leicester, it's around about the 300,000 mark. Because a lot of people, what they think about Leicester isn't actually Leicester. Technically, you've got a boundary that runs roughly around the outer ring road, but actually there's a much bigger community which also takes in Oby and Wigston, Glenfield. So the actual kind of area that most people would recognise as Leicester, it's about 500,000 people, but the technical boundary, it's around 300,000 people.
Actually, it's not the right figure, Patrick. The correct figure, one of the listeners earlier on, he did some research on it, and reality is that the figure is close on to 400,000.
Yeah.
That is the real figure, right?
Yeah.
And one of the listeners, he came back to us and he says 357, 394. So,
yeah, the official figures vary because the number of people on the electoral register is roughly around about 225,000, but you don't get the children in there. So, and the other thing is there's what's called the urban area, which includes places like Oby and Wigston, Glenfield, Birstall, but the official stuff within the city boundary is a lot smaller.
So we're going to go straight into it now, Patrick. We haven't had a response as to who is Patrick Kittrick, so I want you to introduce to our listeners right this minute.
Indeed. My name is Patrick Kittrick. I'm a councillor for what's called the Castle Ward. It actually is the part of the city, everything within the inner ring road. And then it's basically you go then up the New Walk corridor, and then the other part of the area I represent is Clarendon Park. So it's those kind of areas. So you've got the city centre, the streets off New Walk, and the Clarendon Park and some of Nightingale's Road area.
So it is quite a big area you have. How many constituents you have in that area?
Again, this is one of the problems with the amount of people on the electoral registers are around about 11 or 12,000. But we do know that there's a lot of under-registration because it brings in both universities and there's a lot of students. So, yeah, it's a very interesting area. It contains both universities and the whole of the city centre.
So real figure could be anywhere between 15 to 20,000, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, people live in the city centre and they don't bother to go on the electoral register,
Yeah.
so they're not accounted for. I wouldn't be surprised if there was as many as 20,000 who actually live in.
So
there.
what all the time we are saying that if our councillors don't know, then the people who they represent will not know. What is your demographic? What is your diversity count? And how do you then make a plan
Yeah.
to succeed? Otherwise, you will continue to make a plan to fail.
Yeah, it's a case of, but you get lots of different ways of finding out what's going on. Some of it is hard facts. Some of it is knowing what the street boundaries is. So yeah, there's a lot of hard facts in there. But also, a lot of what I do in terms of representation is soft information. Yeah, I could look on Wikipedia or Google and find out 100 facts. But then if I spoke to somebody on the street about a problem that's going on, that can be much more valuable information.
So here we are now. We're talking about city council, then we're talking about demographics, we're talking about diversities, and we're going to ask you a question. Are we failing to plan or are we planning to fail? Which one is it for the future? We're now going to go straight last 50 years and the next 50 years. What do we need to do?
I think it's a bit of both when you actually look why things don't work. My particular experience that I come from is when we had COVID-19, and amongst when the pandemic was raging at its height, whilst it was a dreadful event, we actually saw a potential future for how we organise in the city. Suddenly you found that the city council, which had put in lots of barriers to doing things, suddenly was focused on achieving stuff for the community. And suddenly things moved faster. Even with all the pressures on, we moved faster. There was less rules and regulations. There was less, I've got to refer it to that manager. There was more of a can-do atmosphere. And in the community, what we found is there's a whole amount of wealth, both in not monetary wealth, but in terms of time and effort and people helping each other, and people spontaneously came and organised. That faded as the pandemic faded, because people who did do community organising, what they did is they've got pressures, and what happened is people drifted away. But what was there was a model where the city council works with the community and provides that platform for the community. What we have before and what we're going back to is a bit where the city council sits over in one
We have a
area.
call, Patrick.
Yes,
We're
sir.
going to take. Yeah, put it through, please. We've got hand signals going on here in the studio. We communicate like that. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Hello? No? See? Call's gone. Carry on, Patrick.
Yeah, carry on. Well, what you have is you have the city council sat in City Hall, and you have the community out there, and the communication's not right. But actually, if we could work together, we could be a lot more productive for both our communities and for what the city council.
So what's demonstrated today is awareness, lack of awareness. And this is what we have to deal with. One community organization does not have a clue what is 3 miles down the road in an area, Saffron Lane, Esmonsal, New Parks, and areas that surround the direct inner city. So if we are going to stay in our bubbles, then we're not going to progress as a wider community, are we?
Absolutely. And again, I go back to when the pandemic was raging. Suddenly, all of these organisations started to come and work together, and people became aware of them, and that's receded. I think you're right. There's a lot of organisations out there. There's a commonwealth of good community organisations out there, and if we could get them to work together and even be aware of each other, we could address a lot of the issues.
So how many diversities, to your knowledge, we have in the city of Leicester?
Different communities. It would be. I was for 10 years. I was the governor at Hazel Primary School, and there was 30 different languages. Yeah. So it's an incredibly diverse city.
Well, we've hit 70 now.
Yeah.
And the diversities are anywhere between 50, around that area.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 50 diversities. When we came into this country in 1972, we did not have that issue. we were told not to come to this city in 72 when the Ugandan Asians were expelled. And now look, we have how many diversities over a period of 50 years. Every decade, different people are coming into the country. Now, 2022, which is the diversity arriving here at our doorstep now? From which country?
Well, there's different waves. I mean, you go to the city of Leicester. My mum and dad came over from Ireland in the 1950s, and so you've had a long-standing Irish immigration. Then you had waves. If you go to South Highfield, you see where there was a Jewish arrivals. Then you will see African Caribbean, Ugandan Asians.
In the 70s, yeah.
And then you go through to the, in the 90s, the Somali community.
Early 70s was the Ugandan Asians. Yeah. Later 70s were the Malawi Asians. Yeah. Out of the aftermath of the Ugandan Asians, then they started coming over from Malawi and Kenya. And then throughout each decade, we've had different diversities arriving here. But come period 2000, after the Gulf War, we had a spate of different diversities arriving into the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, Patrick, nobody here, neither me or you or anyone, is aware and has the right formula that how do we coordinate all of them to work together.
Yeah, I mean, it is a case of, if you expect me to sit here and know exactly what is going on at any point.
Or what is the formula?
It's an impossible task, yeah. So what you've got to do is you've got to work with communities and you've got to use that knowledge that's contained in them. And then it's spreading that knowledge.
It's rich knowledge, brothers and sisters, absolute rich knowledge. When you engage with different communities, you're going to step up your knowledge's power, right?
Absolutely.
And you're going to be better for it.
Absolutely.
So, Patrick, now I've got to share with you all the findings that we have had here is lack of awareness, right? Lack of our political structure in the city.
Yes.
And that is why God has brought you here today on this chair to bring awareness to our people about our political structure. We'll start with the council, right?
Yes, certainly.
Now, give us a little crash course on that.
Okay. The City of Leicester Council is governed by a city mayor. And the city mayor selects a cabinet of up to nine other people from the councillors. So the city mayor is elected by the whole of the city. And as I said earlier, sometimes that is what people might think of the whole of the city. It's basically the constituencies of the Leicester South, East and West. Then the councillors are then also elected, and they represent what's called wards. So the city mayor is elected by a group of registered electors, around about 225,000 people. Then what you have is you have 21 wards, and those wards are roughly divided up, and they can be anywhere between about 8 to 15,000 people, and they're what called multi-member wards. So they'll either have 2 or 3 councillors representing them. They are all up for election next May 2023. And if people wish to stand for the council and they wish to get in touch, quite happy to have a talk to them about how that happens. The council also runs, I'm a Labour councillor, the council also run courses for people who wish to stand as independents, and other political parties can be contacted about candidates who may wish to stand for their political party.
As you have been speaking, somebody sent a message already to ask a question that obviously they are very well aware of, more than I am, that why are there 52 Labour councillors out of the 54?
Over the years, we've worked very hard in terms of developing that. We try and win, and we do our best to win. Again, the first past the post system tends to be designed that it gives people who put in that effort primacy. Why there aren't other political parties, why they don't win, it's probably a question for the other political parties. I just say the reason why there's Labour councillors is we work very hard at what we do to get elected, and then when we get elected, we represent our constituents. People choose us in the end.
Another message here is how many councillors you have who are under the age of 30?
Ooh, that's a question. Our councillors aren't young enough yet. The age profile is worrying. And again, if there's young people out there who want to stand for the council, and if they want to come and talk to me, I got on the council when I turned, I'm just trying to remember, I was 31 when I got on the council.
Wow.
And there have been younger councillors on there. How many under the age of 30? I don't go around asking my colleagues how old they are. There are a handful of younger councillors, but not enough.
Right now, we are trying to ascertain that why young people are not entering the political fray, and then afterwards they sit outside the fence and they complain.
Yes.
Right? They complain about various issues and saying that, oh, waste of time, I'm not bothered.
Well, what I'd say to that is, if I can only give my experience, some of the challenges are, you're elected for a 4-year term. If you're 21, do you know you're going to be in Leicester for the next 4 years?
Okay.
So some of that is a challenge.
Okay, so we're saying now, we're pinning it down, is that if you finish your university, you're on the job ladder and you're progressing, so around 28, 29 is a good age, isn't it, to become assertive?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first step I'd say is, do you see yourself being in the city for the next 4 years? That's the first question you've got to ask yourself, because it's a contract with the people who elect you. They elect you, so it's for 4 years. So can you commit to those 4 years? Now, as you get older, the ability to commit gets easier, yeah? So that's one of the practical difficulties. I think what happens is we don't explain enough to people about the kind of differences you can make. And there are differences you can make for your community. And as I said, anybody interested in it, in both the practicalities and more what you get for it, what you can achieve, quite happy to talk about it.
Of course, all of you young, prospective, anybody who's got a vision, they want to join the political sphere by being a councillor, or possibly you can progress to being an MP, you got to come together and talk to people like Patrick, who are lending a hand, can guide you. Because if he started his journey at the age of 31, then you can also start your journey at the age of 28, 29, 30, 31. So many of the people in the community, they need that awareness and encouragement. A little bit of inspiration won't go amiss, will it, Patrick?
No, absolutely. And we've got, there's not just me, yeah. We've got a wide variety of councillors. We do have younger councillors. We do have a wide variety of people from different backgrounds. We've got half of the councillors are women, you know. It is a case that we've made a great deal of progress. In terms of ethnicity, the group of councillors is far more reflective of the city than the senior officers of the council. But there is work that we still need to do, and in particular, in terms of, you're absolutely, in terms of age profile, it's not young enough.
So another message, they're coming in fast, Patrick. You're doing something that is enticing people to write a message in, and is saying that, is it necessary to have an Asian councillor or a black councillor so that they are representing their community and getting the job done? Why can it not be an act of humanity? It should not be about caste, colour, creed.
I think in an individual circumstance, my ethnicity is white British, yeah. I'm a white British man, yeah. If somebody comes up and says, can you solve me planning issue, it doesn't particularly matter what the ethnicity, what the background of that councillor is. But I'm aware, as a white British man, my experience of Leicester, it's almost like a different city. If at night I decide that I'm going to walk around Highfield, sometimes even if I'm going to walk across Victoria Park, as a healthy white British man, as a healthy man, I don't need to think about that. I might just be slightly concerned. I might have some concerns. If I were a woman, yeah, if I had a disability, that would be a completely different journey for me, yeah. So for me to cross Victoria Park at night, yeah, I'd be a little bit cautious, but I'm not going to be stopped. If I were a woman, it's a completely different experience. And that's why you need the different backgrounds, because the city that I experience as a healthy white British man is completely different to what a woman will experience. It may be different to what a black person would experience. And so as a whole, the council needs that diversity because we need those different experiences when we create policy. Because I'm aware that my experience is different to that of different people.
So diversity is what we've been talking about. The EDI is, we ran a whole week of EDI here last week. And this week we are talking about community partnerships and how important it is for all these community organizations to become aware of each other, because they're all doing wonderful work, supporting communities. Without them, the whole city will collapse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Absolutely, they'll collapse because they're on the ground, they're in touch. There are people who are in severe poverty in the city. The food banks are getting busier and busier. Right? A food bank is a reflection of your community. Your prison population is a reflection of your community. What's happening with social disorder, everything else that comes along with social disorder, the crime, and so on. So we have got a mountain to climb. Now, Patrick, what changes are on the way in the council?
It's a case of, I would like to see change in the council. I would like a more community focus. We've gone backwards in terms of what's happening in the community. When we look at the city centre, we see that when the council focuses on the regeneration of the city centre, it can achieve great things. You know, it can achieve huge transformations. And I think that we need to take that resources, energy, and time, and we need to have a look at the communities. We are almost living in two different cities. You see a city centre that is thriving, that has investment, that is changing for the better, and yet you come out, you go to Wesley Hall, and the queues for the food banks get longer. There's something up with that. And I think that what's happened over the years is the council has lost its focus on the communities outside of the city centre. But what is happening in the city centre shows that actually when the focus happens, great things can be achieved.
Okay, I'm going to share with you now. You don't mind you?
No.
The feedback I have received here, or the radio has received here, that our communities in the city are living in bubbles throughout. And this is a social engineering issue as nobody's even attempted to understand that why is it necessary. It's a human thing that I'll go and live in St. Matthews because I'm from the Somali community, all my people are there, all my faith, mosques and everything is in that area, and right across the inner city we have this issue. And when you go slightly outside of that area and you go to other areas, they're saying, well, we never go down there, right, because you lot are living there. And the same vice versa. Now, you yourself, you live in the heart of the city where you are predominantly an ethnic minority there, where you are staying, right? The majority of people around you are from the ethnic community, aren't they?
Yeah, I live just off Gufflaxton Street on Gufflaxton Avenue. I've never felt like a minority in Highfields. I felt like somebody who lives in Highfields. And I've never been made to feel in any way uncomfortable because it's different. I think the interesting thing about why do people live together, and if I go back to when my mum and her sisters came over from Ireland, they all lived within a mile of each other. And the key thing is it's those family support networks. When you look at the amount of money people have, they don't have a lot of money. How do they survive? They survive on those extended family support networks. And that's why they live near each other, because actually, if you're going to do a bit of childcare, you don't want to be going 3 miles on a bus. You want to be able to push that pushchair down there. I think that what happens is you find as people get more economically independent, they have to be less reliant on those informal networks, which actually you lose something. It's quite nice to have family nearby, but if I think about my mum's experience of having to live near to family because they had to, and me and my sisters now, and we live hundreds of miles apart, it's a function of the economics. But actually, I think once those communities break down because they get richer, I think you lose something. And it would be quite nice to both get people to have a better financial situation, but also to keep those community ties.
So we have the ladder. The ladder defines our communities and our humanities. You know, we start in a terraced house.
Yeah.
You have
You go up the hill.
You go up the hill, and you go to a semi.
Yeah, you start off in St Matthews and Highfields, go up to Evington Road, then keep going, and then maybe one day end up in Oadby. You know,
And-
it is.
and then after that-
you literally go up to Evington and go up to Oadby. You literally go up the hill.
And then you end up there in the farms.
Yeah, and then you can go out and live a rural life. It's not for me, but you know, for many people,
It's a journey of life.
It is, and that city that's changing is part of what's exciting and
But
interesting.
what is interesting, that across that journey, the problem is the same. Where when I've met people of color who have gone to the rural areas and they've faced problems in planning application, they want to build an extension and so on. And the feedback is no different to what you have at the bottom end where you do. So if you go to St. Matthews or you go to Evington area, you see predominantly different communities. So we find that there's a mosque and there's a Sikh Gurdwara and there's a temple and there's a church all nearby, all the great faith communities that live close by.
Yes.
But the children are not interacting 50 years later as they should be. We're in 2022 now. We're upon the digital revolution now. The digital footprint is defining the world tomorrow.
Yes.
But people are not adapting to it as they should do.
Yeah, and it's those opportunities for people to meet. And I think it's where, you know, I've talked about the city centre. I think the city centre is a place of common ground where people can meet, that people don't feel, well, this is my neighbourhood or this is their neighbourhood. Actually, that function of the city centre as a place to meet and mix is quite valuable.
Yeah, now we have the business world has adapted to change. Otherwise, they sink, they die, they lose their business, they go bankrupt if they don't adapt to change. Then you have many areas, other areas that have adapted to the digital revolution. But in the cities, the governance, our councils and higher the government, national government, how are they adapting to this digital revolution? Go to a bank today. It's not the bank of yesterday, is it? Go to the post office today. Rapid changes. Banks, everything is online now.
Yeah.
Shut branches. All of the banks have shut their branches because everything is online.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think when you look at the city council and its websites, the simple fact is that there is a lot less money provided by the Conservative government to Leicester than there was back in 2010. And the question you have to ask is, whilst we're trying to improve stuff like being able to get stuff online and the internet, we haven't got the resources that the private sector can put into developing websites because they are not cheap to do. The other aspect the City Council has to balance is for those people who don't particularly aren't able to access those websites. Yeah. And it's a worry of mine that what we do tend to find is that people are being left behind. I think developing websites, and you know, the way I want to deal with the City Council is, it's funny when you ask, well, do you know who Patrick Kittrick is? If the City Council is working properly, nobody should know who I am, because you shouldn't have to come to your councillor to get stuff sorted.
I'm talking about
it should just happen.
Now we're on the same page. I'm talking about a digital footprint where information is in your face.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm working very hard here, the radio, to create awareness of all the people so that the next election we can improve the turnouts.
Yeah.
Because if we continue like this, the word election will be, there'll be a letter added to the E. And what's that letter going to be, Patrick?
Letter E added to election?
No, the word election. All of you spell the word election with me. E-L-E-C.
T-I-O-N.
T-I-O-N. Now, if we add one letter to the E, what does that mean? Which letter is going to be?
You're talking about selection.
Exactly. We're on the same page. Now, if we don't put our house in order, we'll go through a process which is predetermined selection rather than election.
Can I just put it out there that we in the Labour Party are always looking for people who share our view of the world. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't believe in what the Labour Party offers, then there are other parties. So it's not necessarily that there's different people who'll be listening to this, and some will have a different view of the world. But if you share our view of the world, we are always looking for.
Have the parties have evolved from back in the day.
Yes.
Now we're here today with a 20-year-old in 2022, and we are trying to still go by rules of old across our institutions, right? That's where the terminology came about called the HIS. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Patrick, come on, get your pen and paper out and write these things down, right? HIS is historic, institutional, systemic. Yeah. And you can add whichever letter you like in front of that.
But what changes those institutions are people, yeah. And if you actually look at the amount of new councillors who come through the council, through the Labour Party, at every election, there is a turnover, there is a change. If people are sat there saying, I would never go to the Labour Party because I've got no chance of being selected, I would say, please talk to me, because if you share our ideals, if you share our view of the world, there is a place for you. And if you've got hard work, yeah, if you want to work hard and you want to make a difference in the community, we want to hear from you. And I can take you through all the statistics. At every election, even though it's predominantly Labour councillors, there's always at least 10 new councillors. Yeah, it is, I've been around for a while, but I'm in the minority. We're always looking for new talent. We're always looking for hard-working people. And if you want to do that and make a change to the community, please get in touch.
So what Patrick is saying, be the change that you want to see, right?
Absolutely.
So he's got a good point there. A lot of us, we may complain, we're not happy, and then we will carry on complaining, right? If you want to make a change, then come on board and help make a difference.
Yeah, the door is open.
Now, we're going to go on to the election next year. Now, at the same time, will there be the city mayor election?
Yes, they're held on the same day.
Okay, run us through that process. How does that process work?
Okay, if somebody wishes to stand for city mayor, they, again, can either get the endorsement of a political party or they can stand as an independent. They have to pay a deposit. I'm not quite sure what the deposit is at the moment. And if they, so it will be a case of then anybody can put their name forward for the election, and then they're elected by the people who live within the Leicester City Council area, and as I said, it's about 235,000 people roughly on the electoral register.
So they will elect the mayor then?
Yeah, everybody in the cities on the electoral register will have a vote for who the city mayor is.
I see. And we have the incumbent city mayor, and we will have a list of other candidates, whether they're independent or they are tied up with one of the political parties.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if currently we have a Labour city mayor,
yes,
and a Conservative city mayor, or a Lib Dem, or a Green Party, or an independent? If one of them becomes a city mayor, how does that work then?
Well, what they have is the city mayor has powers which they themselves are given by the electorate on being elected. Well, so a power, for instance, to name the cabinet. So they can choose who's in charge of transport, who's in charge of education, who's in charge of adult social care. So they can do that. They are specifically given that power. Some of the issues over setting the budget and other decisions are decided by the councillors. So if you had a city mayor from one party, but the councillors weren't from that party or they were an independent, well, to be frank, the city mayor and the councillors would have to work together, as we work together at the moment.
Yeah, so that is quite hard to understand, that one. Because working together when you're in a different party, it's not the easiest things to do. Because you have different ethos and different values. So if one particular chap is sitting there, is an independent, he's got his own mindset and he's got his own vision compared to the party line, which is 52 Labour councillors.
Yeah, but the idea is as we have within the Labour Party at the moment, there's discussion and dialogue, and you come to a consensus on how things move forward. And so, yeah, it is unusual that you'd have a mayor from one party and a group of councillors from the other. But again, not to be too detailed, it's detailed in the constitution of the City Council how you get past any conflicts and deadlocks in those circumstances.
Now, traditionally, what I've always seen is that what happens in the city in terms of this election we are talking about is opposite to what happens in the county.
Yeah, there's more Conservatives in the county and there's less Labour, and in the city there's more Labour and less Conservatives.
We're coming towards the end of Ramadan, brothers and sisters, and we have seen that there's an us and them between a city and the county also. So there's an us and them scenario across the city, which that is what if we're going to work together successfully, Patrick, we got to break that ice.
Absolutely. I've worked in the county. I've got friends in the county. It's not a different country. And to be honest, just because people vote in different ways doesn't make them different. We have got that common humanity. So to say, well, the county elects Conservatives and the city elects Labour means that we're different. We're not different. We have that common humanity.
One of the ideas I put on the table right now is, like, we are trying to bring 12 organizations from across different diversities together on the table, and then to get the business world to support each one or one particular one. All these organizations are putting back into the community time and money. Monies they raise. Have you heard of the Riders of Sham?
No, I will hold my hands up.
Right, I'm going to tell you now about the Riders of Sham. What have they done? You know how much money they've raised?
I'm not aware.
Over a period of 8 years, they've raised £1 million.
That's a great achievement.
Just last year, they raised 300,000 plus.
Yes.
A third of that money went back into the community. 2/3 of it went overseas to alleviate poverty. So isn't that a very strong group?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yet you don't know about them.
Yeah, and this is the thing. To have a vision of the city council where anybody is sat in City Hall and knows everything that's going on and is directing everything that's going on.
That's what I'm talking about. Is digitization. So every single organization has got to be on your screen.
But Zed, that's not a model, I think, that works. What happens is if a community group on Evington Road can work with a community group in Saffron, yeah, and they get on with it and they do it, brilliant.
Then we got to sing a song about it. Yeah. We got to tell the world that, look, diversity works.
But
humanity works.
The problem often with the city council is we say to those different groups, oh no, you've got to go via City Hall. And you're going, well, actually cut it out. If people are getting on and we can support it and they can get on with it and do it, then do it. And we should be enabling people to do that.
Well, Patrick, are you on board with that yourself?
I'm on board with that. I find that nobody's got the monopoly on good ideas, yeah? And people generate new ideas every day. And you find within local government, yeah, there's the expression, nobody ever wants to be the first person. Everybody wants to be
Okay, here's an idea for you now. Yeah, very quick one.
Yeah.
We go to that area. We meet the councillor in that area. We have a cup of tea with him. And we say, let's make this work.
Yeah.
And then we go to that organization and we make it happen. How's that? Are you on board with that?
I'm on board with that.
Right. Patrick, we got 35 seconds, so I'm going to allow you to say some closing remarks before we close.
No, thank you very much for inviting us here today. It's been a very enjoyable experience. What I would say to you is, I think people think that doors are closed to them when they're open. If anybody in the community wants to get involved with the Labour Party, if anybody in the community wants to stand for election, come and have a chat with me. Sometimes you have the chat and afterwards people say, it's not for me, but have the conversation. Because if you have the conversation and what this radio station is all about, is informing us.
Brothers and sisters, we have to leave you now. Sorry to cut you off, Patrick, but we're at the end of the program.